drum roasters, right?
That's right.
So drum roasters, I would say, are the way I'm going to go with most craft chocolate makers probably roast.
For sure.
Right? Some are still doing convection oven, but I think most tend to use drums.
Which, I like drum roasters a lot. There's a charm to them. They look like trains. People walk in.
Yeah, it does feel like
aesthetically.
It feels like industrial equipment. It's like
They're really pretty.
Right.
They're kind of simple to work on and understand until you have a lot of automation and electronics on it.
Right. I would say there's also, because drum roasters are used in coffee, there's a zillion drum roasters out there.
That's right.
So there's a lot of options of like size and scale, and people who are very expert at just roasting.
Two of ours have come from. The first roaster we bought was a San Franciscan coffee roaster that came from a friend who was roasting coffee, and he had two and he wasn't using it and it was broken, and we were pretty easily able to fix this.
Right.
And the only thing we had to do to the drum roaster to make it go from coffee to cacao was, I believe we swapped out a gearbox to slow down how fast the drum spins, because otherwise, as it does roast cacao, the shells, the seeds start to break.
Right, you're nib roasting. You're not trying to nib roast, but you're nib roasting.
Bingo.
Yeah, we've done the same thing. So we've gotten a number of drum roasters over the years, and like when we first started getting them, they were cocoa roasters, and now the people who make cocoa roasters, I think, are very good at making cocoa roasters. But like early on, for the small scale that we were looking at, they were mostly coffee roasters, and there's kind of three things you need to do to convert a coffee to drum. One is it has to go slower, because like coffee drums spin really fast because coffee beans are very hard. But you also want to move them around. You want to add
a lot of agitation.
You don't want that in cocoa. So you need to slow the drum down. The second is, and we learned this the hard way, is that the amount that you can hold in a cooling tray of a coffee roaster is not like per kilo is not the same volume that you can hold for cocoa. Mm-hmm. And so you need to, like if a coffee roaster can do 35 kilos, for cocoa it's probably more like 25. To make sure it can fit.
I had the exact opposite experience for the drums. The drums.
For the drums themselves,
somewhere around 20% more.
But your cooling tray needs to be big enough to cool it.
And in our case, it was.
Got it.
So let's say our 12 kilo coffee roaster, we were roasting 15 kilos of beans.
Right.
In our 23 kilo coffee roaster, we were roasting 30 kilos of cacao and could get up to about 35 if we pushed it. But then all of a sudden, the door gets forced open, it's spilling out over the cooling carousel. Right. And so that we found its limit. Yeah.
Well, and then the third thing is coffee roasts hotter. Mm-hmm. And so the one of the drum roasters we have, where normally there'd be like two sort of like heaters on it, they only put one heater on it for cocoa as opposed to coffee. To sort of like make sure you can manage lower temperatures.
So coffee likes, I'm going to speak in Fahrenheit, 420 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And cacao we're roasting 250.
Yeah, I was going to say,
60.
We're somewhere between like 225 and 300.
Yeah, I was going to say we roast somewhere between 235 and 265. That being said, they're all different.
Totally.
So the roaster we're using now is a 100 kilo roaster.
Right.
And shoot, if we get to sometimes it'll roast at 112 Celsius. Can you see I'm all messed up?
Depends on the roaster you're looking at. If it's like Celsius or Fahrenheit.